Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle and I am the creator behind Lily Rose Craft Room. And for today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a step-by-step tutorial on how to engrave tumblers, specifically the curved 40-ounce one with my Xtool S1. And this is something that I really struggled with at the beginning because there's not really much information or much videos on how to do a curved tumbler. I always wondered how to get the seam perfectly right every time on the handle. I didn't know where to place my image on the software. So today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to do that step by step. So if you guys already have an Xtool S1 and you're struggling, I just want to tell you I'm here to help you out. And if you don't have an Xtool, I highly recommend it because I've been having such a fun time making these. I do have an affiliate link down in the description below. So if you're looking to purchase one, please use my affiliate link. They do give me commission and it helps me create videos just like these to help you guys out. Also, I do plan on making another video about the Xtool S1 and showing you guys all its features and what it can do. But I've been posting these cups on Instagram and I've got so many questions on how I make them because like I said, there's not many information or videos on how to do it with the Xtool S1. I also want to note that this is what works for me. I know different machines are different with the different wattages or different temperatures. This is the way I have been doing them and I have been so happy with them. So before we get into the tutorial, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so you guys don't miss out on any new videos. All right, let's get started. This is the specific machine that I am using. It is the Xtool S1 Diode Laser. And this is the 20 watt in color white. And this is the Rotary Kit package. This Rotary Kit package comes with the machine itself, a material kit, a honeycomb panel, the 4-in-1 rotary. That's not only for tumblers. You can also use the rotary attachment on a baseball, on a ring, a bracelet. So there's many things that you can use that rotary attachment for. And it also comes with the Smart Air Assist and a riser base. In order to create tumblers, you do need the riser base, and this is going to lift your machine. That way you're able to put your rotary attachment down at the bottom. If you do decide to buy the rotary attachment by itself, you will need to lift the machine, whether it be on blocks or what I recommend is just buy the riser base. It opens and closes just like this, and you're able to move the tray up if you're working on a different project, or move it all the way to the bottom when you're making your tumblers. That way the laser does not hit your tumbler. You'll need it all the way at the bottom without the honeycomb tray. This is the rotary attachment that it came with. It's the Rotary Attachment 2 Pro. And it came with the rollers attached, but I followed the instructions to remove it. And I added the little parts so it can hold the tumbler. So these are the parts that I'm using to hold the 40-ounce one, so the wider tumblers. It's the ones that look like little steps. The package comes with 2 different size Allen wrenches, so use the one that fits the screws for this one. I had them all attached, but I removed one of them just to show you guys how I attach it for the 40-ounce. So we have the steps going outwards, so the top part, they're all on the outside. But if you wanted a smaller tumbler, if you have a smaller mouth, you would take off all of those little attachments and turn them around the other way. That way the top part is in the inside like that. And this is for smaller size tumblers. But we're making this video for a 40-ounce tumbler with the wide mouth. So we are going to attach it just like this with the top part of the step going out. So we're just going to align the holes and we're going to attach the 2 screws that go to each one of those. So now that we have the little attachment on, you will be able to rotate this little dial right here to open it wider or close it. So this part right here is a little key. So once you have your tumbler attached to it, you would use the key to make it tighter. And I'm going to show you how to do it later. But you don't want to rotate it too hard or too tight because it is plastic, so you will wear down the gears if you really force it. You'll strip the gear, so just be careful with that key. My rotary kit came with 3 different connections. It came with cords to fit the M1, the P2, the D1, the D1 Pro, an F1, and an S1. So there's 3 different connections that it came with. If you have an older version of the rotary attachment, you might need to order the cord that is for your machine. I have the S1 machine, so we're going to be using the cord for the S1. So you turn your little machine to the side and you could see the white attachment onto the side. So you just simply want to align it and plug it in and you will hear a little click. So before we put in our rotary attachment, you want to make sure your tray is all the way at the bottom rack. You also want to make sure that the rotary attachment machine part is on the right side and the chuck is on the left side. So to plug in the rotary attachment, you have a plug inside the machine. So it's right above the light, right where I'm pointing at. It's above the light, there is a silicone stopper. So you just take out that little silicone stopper and you just plug it in, and this is going to give power to your rotary attachment. This is a tumbler that I'm going to be using for this video. It's the Mars brand, and this is a soft touch mat. I see a lot of people using these cups for engraving, and I must say the quality of these are amazing. So this is the 40-ounce charger tumbler, and it comes with 2 straws and is very well protected inside that box. But the texture of this, it just feels so nice. It feels very soft, like almost velvety. And if you want to get into selling these engraved tumblers, the price point on these are really good. So they range from $9.99 all the way to $12.99 depending on the tiers and how many you purchase. The minimum purchase is 4, but if you buy more, you do get a bigger discount. And they do come in a variety of different sizes and different colors. So definitely check out that website, Save a Cup. I will link it down also in the description below. So you can't rotate your tumbler with the handles on inside your laser machine because it will hit. So if you're wanting to engrave a full wrap on a tumbler, make sure the handles are removable. Next, we also need to bend in these little prongs that hold the handle. So we're just going to get some pliers and we're going to carefully bend them in. So you just want to do this like in one shot, because if you keep like bending back and forth, you're going to snap the metal. So just carefully and one time tuck in those tabs so you don't hit the laser. Next, we're going to take the tape measure that came with our rotary attachment and we're going to measure the perimeter. And I'm also going to show you how to double check your perimeter before we actually engrave on the whole entire tumbler. That way we don't overwrap or underwrap. You can totally skip this step if you trust yourself that you actually have the dimensions right. But if not, here is a way to check it. So I made a note that my perimeter was 12.3 inches. And next I'm going to measure the length of my tumbler. So this one is going to be 8.875. So I'm just going to write those 2 measurements on a piece of paper. That way we could plug it in later onto the Xtool software. Next, I'm going to use 2 layers of painter's tape. And the reason I'm doing this is because, like I said, I wanted to test that I have my perimeter right before I actually engrave on the tumbler. You can totally skip this step if you already know your measurements are perfect, or you could just take my measurements if you're using the same tumbler. Next, we're going to insert our tumbler onto our rotary attachment. Next, you're going to adjust the prongs so it can open and hold the tumbler. You also want to make sure that the chuck, the part that's behind the tumbler, is sitting right in between the wheels. That way when it spins with the wheels. And then you want to make sure that all of the prongs are inside the tumbler, just on the surface of the lip. So just push them all in so they're even. Then once you have everything inside, you want to take your key and just give it a couple little turns. That way it's on snug. Next, you want to make sure that the rotary attachment is inside the machine straight and not like diagonally. So in order to test that, I get my laser and I just line it up between the chrome part of the tumbler and the matte part. And it looks pretty even, so that means it's in there straight. Next, we're going to go on Xtool Creative Space and I'm going to show you how to make our test line to make sure our perimeter is correct. We're going to go to the top right hand side where it says New Project and we're going to select that. Also, I am using the 2.0 beta version of Xtool Creative Space because when I downloaded the software, it was the day they just released that 2.0 software. So this is the only version I've ever used. That little X is our laser marker. So if we were to move it, it's going to move on the screen as well. So right now I am moving my laser to be above where we marked it with the painter's tape, because that's where we want to make our test run. So this is currently where we have it sitting. Next, we're going to go over to the right side on where it says mode. We are going to change that to use rotary attachment. And then we're going to select chuck since we're using the chuck. And if you're like me and didn't know what it was, it's the thing that's holding the butt of the tumbler. And for the perimeter, we're going to dial in 12.3 because that is what we measured on the cup. Then it will automatically input the diameter, so I don't mess with that. Whatever I put for the perimeter, it plugs it in the diameter and I just leave it like that. Next, we're going to go over to the left side of the screen. We're going to hover over the square and then we're going to select rectangle. So we're going to make a quick little rectangle and we're going to go here and unlock it. And for the width, we're just going to plug in 12.3. So this is going to be the width of our tumbler. So this is going to be the perimeter. And then for the height, we're just going to make it a 0.3. And like I said, this is just going to be our little line to check our perimeter of the tumbler. And you don't have to do this step every single time. This is just to get your measurements correct. That way when you laser, it's not short or it's not overlapping. I do suggest keeping a little notebook with the measurements of the tumblers that you're using. That way you don't forget and you don't have to do this step again. Next, we're going to rotate our line and we're just going to place it just to the left of the crosshair. I also wanted to mention, because this is where I had my problem, is where do I place my design in order to make it print on the seam? Well, I figured out that it doesn't matter where it's placed, like it could be higher or lower, just don't cross that gray area at the top, just as long as it sits to the left of the crosshair. So the way we're gonna make it in the middle of the seam or by the handle is when we frame it. So it doesn't matter if it's higher or lower right here. It all depends where we frame it. So I'm going to show you how after this step. Next, before we frame, we're going to check our distance. So we're going to click the little auto measure button. So we're going to select that and it's going to determine how high our tumbler is to the laser. So it's going to do a little check and it's going to go up to the corner to restart the pin. And then it's going to go back to where our tumbler is. Next, we're going to select our rectangle and then where it says processing type, we're going to make sure it says score. You don't want to have it set to engrave because it's going to engrave the whole entire rectangle and we don't want that. We just want a score. Next, we're going to set our burn setting. So we're going to go down to where it says easy set panel. And we just want a small little burn. We don't want it to burn through the whole entire tape. We just want the surface of it. So I'm going to make the power 15 and I'm going to change the speed to 50. It's going to save automatically and we're just going to hit the X and then we're going to frame our tumbler now. So select that and then I'm going to go to my tumbler and I'm going to show you how. This was my big question and I'm sure it's your big question too, is how do you get the seam to align on the handle? So before the laser starts, it rotates the tumbler. I heard 180 degrees. Sometimes it varies for me. So those handle tabs, you want to rotate a little bit before you get to the center of the bottom, and then you test it when you do the frame. So I'm making sure that the handles are not quite at the bottom, but like before that. So you're going to select frame and it's going to do a rotation. And when it stops at the rotation, that is where it's going to start. So I'm going to hit the button and then it rotates 2 times where the laser is shining. That is where it's going to start engraving. Obviously, that is not the center where we want it to start at the seam. So we're just going to rotate the cup a little bit more to the bottom. So you're going to do this a couple times until you get the right starting point. So it's still a little bit off. So now next time we're going to rotate a little bit more. And every time you shift the tumbler, like to frame it, all you have to do is press the button in front of the machine and it will restart the framing. So you just got to keep pressing the button until you have the framing in the center. So now you can see the frame is in the center and that is where I want it to be. Now that we got our framing right, we are going to close the lid of our machine and then we're going to go back to our computer and select framing completed. Then to start the cut, you're going to select process on the top right And then once it gives you your preview, you're going to select start. And this is going to send it to your machine. And once you hear the beeping sound on your machine, you press the button on the front and it will start cutting. Here is how my test cut came out. It came out perfect. So this is what you want to see. You don't want to see them overlapping and you don't want to see them too short when they meet in the middle. And this is going to give you the perfect full 360 wrap. And like I said, you don't have to do this step every single time, or you don't even have to do it if you don't want to. But when you have a new cup, I do suggest that you do this step. And once you have that right measurement for that specific cup, write it down. That way you can use the same measurements all the time. Now I'm going to take off that tape on the tumbler, and now we're gonna start the real deal. Now we're gonna put our tumbler in the same way we did before. So we're gonna slide it into those prongs, and we're going to turn the knob and make sure it's snug on the cup. So you don't want it to fall off during the engraving process. Okay, so this next part is the leveling. So this was another question of mine when it came to engraving these tumblers. Like, how does it know the bottom perimeter of the bottom of the cup because it's skinnier than the top? So what you're going to do is get your leveler that came with your rotary kit, and you're going to put it at the bottom, and you're going to make sure the bottom is level. You're going to rotate that knob on your chuck and keep rotating until the bubble is on the center of the leveler. The top half of your tumbler is going to be at a slant, but what our focus is, the bottom needs to be level. And doing it this way gives me an even burn across the cup. Next, we're going to align our laser crosshairs on the top of the tumbler where you want it to start engraving. So you have to make sure it's right overhead in the center. So here's what it should look like. So now we're gonna go back into our Xtool software, and we're gonna go select new project. Then we're going to go down to where it says mode, and we're going to change the process on the base plate to use rotary attachment. And then since we're using the chuck, we're going to select chuck. And the perimeter, we are going to change that to a 12.3 because we tested it and that was perfect. And it will automatically input our diameter. Then we're going to go over to the left where it has that box icon, and we're going to select rectangle. We're going to make a rectangle, and we're going to come here to the side. We're going to unlock it, and we're going to make the measurements of the tumbler. So the width of this is going to be the 12.3, and then this is going to be the height of the tumbler. So the measurement that we also wrote down at the beginning was 8.875. So this right here, this box is going to be our template for our design. Next, we're going to bring in our design. The design that I'm using, I got it from Etsy, and there's so many there. All you have to go is on the search bar and type in laser files for tumblers, and it will give you a whole entire list. So to bring in the design, you're going to select this picture icon, the image icon, and then you're going to bring in your SVG. You're going to open it, and it will automatically load inside the software. Now that we have our design loaded into our software, we want to make sure that we can get the SVG to fit inside our template box. So what we're going to do is make sure our image is selected, and then we're going to go here on the side and we're going to unlock it. That way we're able to adjust the size. So we're going to bring our image inside our box, and we're just going to adjust the size. That way it fits right inside the box. So this SVG, it has a bunch of layers. So if we go down to the layers panel and we select the group, so here there's a whole bunch of vectors. So each one of the little pieces inside the design is a layer. So we're going to combine that and make it as one cut. So we're going to make sure the image is selected, and we're going to go to where it says combine, and we're going to select unite. And doing so is going to make this image one image. So instead of all those layers, it's also going to cut your time on engraving the tumbler. So since this is a complex design, there's a whole bunch of different layers. When I selected unite, this took a very long time for the effect to generate. So to be honest, this probably took about 7 minutes for it to convert to just one vector. So it does take time, just wait. So now once it's finished, you can see on the object list list, we only have one vector because it combined all the cuts as just one. Next, what we're gonna do is highlight our vector and our rectangle, and we're gonna rotate our image 90 degrees, and we're going to place it just to the left of our crosshair. Next, we have our blue rectangle over our design. So we want to remove that because we don't want it to engrave or cut into our design. We just use it as a template. So we're gonna go over to our objects list, and we're gonna select the rectangle, and we're gonna select the eyeball because we don't need it anymore. Next, we're gonna go over to the right, and we're gonna select auto measure. And this is gonna auto measure the distance between the laser and the tumbler. So the part that I am measuring is the top of the tumbler. So the same place where we already had the crosshairs when I put the tumbler inside, that is where I'm measuring at the top. I've seen people measure like where the curve starts, but this is the way I have been doing it, and it's been working for me, so I'm just gonna keep it as that. Next, we're going to select our image, and we're going to make sure the processing type is set to engrave. And then the setting is gonna be user defined. And then we're gonna go on easy set panel, and we're gonna insert our settings. So the settings that I used for this project was 70% power, 304 speed, 1 pass, and 100 lines per centimeter. The settings are gonna vary depending on what tumbler you have and like what the material is. This was the first time I was using the soft matte tumbler. So spoiler alert, I wish I would have burned it a little bit higher. So instead of 70, I wish I would have put it to like 85. And I'll show you why once we start burning it. So next we're gonna select framing, and now we are going to make sure our tumbler is framed at the center of the handle. So let's go to the tumbler and I'll show you how. So where it's framing is going to be where your design is going. So see how it didn't go like all the way down past the cup? So where it goes down, that is where the design is going to stop. And you can see that it's not framing where my handles are. So now we're going to shift the tumbler a little bit down more. And you're gonna keep doing the framing until you have the part where you want it to start engraving. So right here, it's a little bit off. So now I'm gonna rotate the cup a little bit down more because I want it to start engraving right on the handle part. And you might have to do this a couple times, and that's okay. So every time you rotate your cup a little bit, all you have to do is just press the button on the machine so it can start reframing again. So this time I got the frame inside where the handles are, so that is perfect. So we don't have to frame anymore. We're gonna go back to our computer and select framing complete, and we're ready to start engraving our design. Also, before you send the design to your machine, you need to close your lid or else it won't do it. Next, we're going to go to the top right-hand corner, and we're going to select the green box that says process. Then it's going to give us a preview of what it's going to look like. It's going to give us the laser trajectory, the laser path, and then it's going to also give us a time estimated. So this wrap, it gave me an estimated time of 49 minutes. Then we're going to go up to the top again, and we're going to select start. And it's gonna send the file to our machine. When you hear your machine beep, you're ready to just press the button and it's gonna start engraving. So here's a little story time in complete transparency. This was one of the first time I was engraving the matte soft touch tumbler. So it has a different coating than like a regular tumbler. So it looked like it wasn't engraving all the way through because I saw like some little fibers flapping around on the tumbler. But that was the material of the tumbler. So I kind of panicked a little bit and I stopped the process, and I got a little rag with some alcohol and I like cleaned up the parts that like didn't look engraved, and I cleaned it up and it came out perfect. So I was like, oh my goodness, next time I just need to trust the process. So I started the process again and I tried to line it up as perfectly as possible, but it wasn't lined up perfect, so I'll show you guys later. But luckily it was just 1 little inch that engraved, and I thought it went bad. The only thing I do wish is I would have put it to like 85 power so it could burn a little bit more deeper into the material. Even though it did, it just would have been easier. So now I just let it trust the process, and I kept peeking in to make sure it was okay. and I just let it run its course for the full 49 minutes. And this doesn't happen with all the tumblers. It was just because I used that specific one. But I am still going to be using those only because I feel like it'll make, you know, you stand out differently than the other tumbler sellers, because these are nice and they feel soft. And compared to the other ones, which is like the just regular powder coating, these have a nice soft texture to it. And while this tumbler was processing, I made sure my window was open with the hose sticking out the window, and also my air assist was on to auto. And the cool thing about the 2.0 software, I never had the other software before, but this one, I guess it's new, that tells you how much time is left and what your estimated time is. This is a time lapse of the last 10 minutes of the tumbler's time. So you can see where the happy face is at, like that whole entire top section. That's where I had thought that I had messed up, but once I cleaned it, it looked good. So luckily it was only that little section until where I stopped it. And you can see as it's going, it looks like it didn't engrave through, because you could see the little flaps just flapping around there. But it did engrave it. It just barely took off the coating. And that is what you want to do when you're making tumblers. You don't want to engrave the metal. You just want to take off the paint or the coating on it. But if I would have put a little bit more power, I feel like it would have cleanly burned off the coating on it. And this is what the tumbler looked like when it was done. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I messed up this tumbler. But luckily I didn't. So all the tumblers that you make, you will need to go wash it in the sink, and they're all gonna have like some ash on it or whatever. But for this specific tumbler, since it's a soft touch, it's a little bit different material. So next we're gonna take it to the sink, clean it up with the magic eraser and some awesome spray, and it is gonna turn out amazing. So you can see with my finger, I was able to like kind of like scratch off the design a little bit. And so there I noticed that everything was gonna be okay. So with my magic eraser, I just scrubbed the whole entire cup, and then I also sprayed some awesome spray. You can get it from like the Dollar Tree. It comes in a clear bottle with yellow inside. It did take me a little bit time to clean up the tumbler, and I do believe that if I would have put like 15% more power, then it would have been an easier clean. I've done tumblers with like a harder coating on it, and they just wipe off with alcohol, and it's a really easy clean. Next, we're gonna put the handle back onto the tumbler. So with our pliers, we're just going to bend back the tabs. Then you're gonna make sure the handle is on the right way, and you're just gonna push it in, and then you're going to reattach the screws. And like always, here is the finished look. It's just amazing how detailed this laser can get. And here is the part that I messed up on, so that's why it looks a little wonky. But I'm keeping it, it's mine, it's unique, and it has a little story where I didn't trust the process. But overall, this tumbler came out super amazing. And if you guys are wondering if the magic eraser scratched up the cup when I was scrubbing it, no, it did not. It still has that beautiful, soft, matte texture, and it looks flawless. You can find a lot of different tumbler SVGs on Etsy or on Google. Just type in 40-ounce laser tumbler SVGs and it'll give you a whole entire list. Alright guys, that is it for today's video. If you guys watched until the end, or if you made a successful tumbler after this video, please let me know by putting a thumbs up emoji down in the comments below. Also remember, if you guys are interested in buying a new Xtool machine or different accessories, please consider using my affiliate link down in the description below. I do get commission, and this also helps me to create more videos and tutorials for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye!